The Hacking for Defense, just a story about it, is imagine if you're a commander of a unit, you're our cyber commander, General Cardone, or you're the 75th Ranger Regiment commander, Navy Special Warfare Group 3, and you have a problem that isn't yet a requirement, and you want to get that problem into the hands of several smart people that normally don't look at these kinds of things. An example is 75th Ranger Regiment has a problem. They want to work on subterranean situational awareness of their teams focused on a WMD problem in North Korea. Let's just say that's their problem. That problem then gets bounced into the hands of graduate students at Stanford University from business backgrounds, health and the medical background, the engineering background, and those students crash on that problem as part of a course for 9 weeks. In line with that, the 75th Ranger Regiment would provide a user mentor, or a mentor and users to that team. We would connect them with technologists throughout Silicon Valley to help them with the technical side of it. There's funding set aside and passed through the Institutes for Manufacturing Innovation, where $50,000 could be set aside for those teams to go to South San Jose to a company like Jabil, the world's third largest OEM, and actually build an MVP. And then that MVP is provided back to the sponsoring organization, regardless of who it is, and then it can turn into any number of outcomes from there. It could turn into a project call with one of the National Institutes for Manufacturing Innovation. It could turn in and be entered into the formal requirements process. It could be a company that the team starts up, these students, and then further enters into the mechanisms to connect with the government as a provider. So I'll just go through a few slides of the Hacking for Defense. It's currently a Stanford University course. I talked about the student populations that it targets. It's advised by former Secretary of Defense Bill Perry. You can see that it's both for the defense and the intelligence community. We use the Lean Launchpad and the mission model canvas developed by Steve Blank, and I'll talk that in a minute of how that came into being, and then it's supported by a diverse community across Silicon Valley. 5 primary goals in response to solving these national security problems. One of the ones that I think is most important is that you're able to get a group of students and really smart people who wouldn't normally be connected to the national security infrastructure through these schools like Stanford, yet you think of it as a tech ROTC for a whole new generation of folks that want to do something for their country. The Lean Launchpad, Steve Blank developed the Lean Launchpad for the startup movement. He developed it for I-Corps, which the National Science Foundation founded, and you can see its reach over the course of several years. 760 teams taught by 50 universities. The infrastructure is already out there to connect these students with this type of program. We're starting out with Stanford this spring, and the intent is that over the next 2 years, after some conversations with the House Armed Services Committee, National Science Foundation, and several others, this could scale out across the country as the Lean Launchpad has done through the National Science Foundation and I-Corps for the federally funded research facilities and universities. The Stanford teaching team, I'll highlight 2 folks. I talked about Steve Blank, 8-time serial entrepreneur. 4 of his companies went to IPO. He's the one that developed the Lean Launchpad for I-Corps, and then the course advisor, Bill Perry, obviously a wide network as a former Secretary of Defense. And with that team, rounding out Dr. Tom Byers, Dr. Joe Felter, and Pete Newell, a former commander of the Rapid Equipping Force. Here's the first round. We just opened this up, and you can see the problem sponsors. You see the 75th Ranger Regiment, you see U.S. Army Cyber Command, you see a host of other folks, Navy Special Warfare Group 3, even the local Veterans Affairs Administration had nominated a problem. By the numbers, 23 of them nominated by 14 sponsors. There were 69 student applicants to this course at Stanford across 8 degree tracks. We just went through the down selecting of those applicants last week, and they'll be announced in the coming week. We also have 8 military liaisons. They're the War College students at Stanford who are serving as military advisors to help connect these graduate students and translate the dialogue that goes on between them and the sponsoring organization. 47 volunteer technology mentors from across Silicon Valley, any number of companies, whether they're startups to some of the more established folks like Oracle. The Defense Innovation Unit Experimental DIUX, which Secretary Carter established out in Silicon Valley last year, has been invaluable in helping to sponsor this. whether through the funding mechanisms, also helping to work with BMNT partners and Stanford University to connect the companies to it. And then NextFlex, the newly established Institute for Manufacturing Innovation in Silicon Valley, is one of the organizations that's helping to provide the funding to the students so that they can go out and pay for the prototyping, the materials to develop the minimum viable prototypes of their products for their sponsors. We also, that's a semester-long course, or actually a term course that goes over the course of several months. There's a shorter version of this which lasts roughly 2 weeks depending on the sponsor organization. We built this based off a request from the DIUX and two other organizations, JIDA and the NGA. It's a 2-week program. It generally follows the same model, except it's internally focused, where you take members of the sponsoring organization. For example, the Air Force has asked to do one of these. They're starting next week to develop solutions, technology solutions to the multi-domain operations center problem that they have. So they'll send in folks from across the combatant commands, the Air Force personnel in those command posts, into a room for 2 weeks. We teach them the Lean Launchpad, the mission model canvas, and then expose them to all the different technologists throughout Silicon Valley that could and might have solutions to their problem, and they work towards a minimum viable product for that. The outcome could be something that they adopt. It could be a process. It's the technology-enabled outcome that you don't want to presuppose what it might be, because the team then arrives at it through a course of iteration and through exposure. What's neat about it is the technology companies that have come forward thus far, this is a way for them to connect with the super users they wouldn't normally come into contact with, which is invaluable for a small startup. Here's some of the goals of the H4D sprints. It's focused internally. You build that focused group of people to crash on a problem for several weeks, both internal to the unit and people they wouldn't necessarily have exposure to outside of it. And then you create a common language for innovation across a group of folks that, again, wouldn't otherwise come into contact with one another. The next steps for both, and primarily the education-based side, is to expand into any number of universities, get all of the institutes for manufacturing innovation involved. And then you can see the sponsors, mentors, and liaisons at the bottom of this chart. Whether it's DoD and IC problem sponsors, we're always soliciting new organizations to come in and tell us what they need help with. The military liaisons, right now we use the War College students that are doing their fellowships at Stanford, but that can expand. And then the support from the DIUX. What we're really looking for is any company that's in this room or in the other main room, there's an opportunity for you to connect with these groups of students that want to be involved with this. The only cost is whatever it takes, a phone call for an hour, or sponsoring somebody to fly out to any of the activities that'll go on. So we really look forward to connecting with anyone that wants to get involved with this. We think it's going to be tremendous, and we look forward to it scaling out over the next several years. I'm going to switch to a second topic called Work Scouts, and this is a then I'll take questions on both afterwards. This is a product that was near and dear to my heart. I was a squadron commander. One of the troop commanders in the audience here, Sheldon Morris, we're at the same time. When each of us has dealt with our soldiers that transition out of the service, we knew as officers that there was lots of opportunities to help us. When I got out, I decided to start this company called Work Scouts with a fellow Marine, or a former Marine enlisted member that I work with. And what we said was we wanted to create something like Orion or Cameron Brooks, but for enlisted soldiers. And that's what Work Scouts is. And it was based off of an idea when I was did 3 pilots last year for the Department of Energy in Kansas, Northern California, and Mississippi to help increase the veteran talent pipeline into advanced manufacturing. And I was sitting in a room with folks from Lawrence Livermore National Lab and Las Positas Community College in Northern California, and a kid named Jeremy, who was an infantry squad leader turned recruiter in Monterey, California, and was looking to get out. He stumbled into this program at Las Positas College on advanced manufacturing. And I asked the Lawrence Livermore National Labs folks, would you have ever hired Jeremy based off his background in the service as an infantry squad leader? And they said, no, we wouldn't. Yet right now he is the poster person for them, based off of what he's been able to learn at this community college and through his internship, and he's looking at a $60,000 to $70,000 paying job after 2 years of school. And if we can somehow scale that and solve that problem, our 20,500 enlisted service members that are getting out across the world and throughout the country every year, to connect them with those jobs. That's the problem we're really trying to solve. You can see some of the numbers here. Within the broader advanced manufacturing community, 3.4 million open jobs, 2 million projected to not be filled in the next 5 years, 20,500 transitioners every month from across the world. And that's really the challenge, is how do you connect those dots of people to those opportunities? What we decided to do is we created a technology platform called WorkScouts. It helps companies connect with qualified job candidates. It reduces the cost and risk to those companies. It really deals with the standard labor market theory. On the left side of that chart, you see there's the people or the talent pool or the supply. On the right side, you see the jobs, which is the demand. That's got to start with the demand and the companies that'll provide these jobs. And then there's the skill bridge in between, which is normally your educational institutions. It could be a SolidWorks course online. It could be a certification that they get through a pre-apprenticeship online program, or it could be a 2-year degree somewhere. It could be a 4-year degree. And that's what those tubes there, as you get vets and transitioning service members through those channels, or they may not need it, they just bypass it, and we're initially targeting manufacturing and advanced manufacturing companies, but we know this applies to technology and energy. We picked those 3 sectors because those are growth engines for the communities where they're developed, and that's where largely this demand exists and where there's a great fit for folks as they transition out. What this platform really does is it overcomes 3 things that are a problem for all of us when we transition out. That's geography, timing, and a communications gap. There's a job fair going on down the hall right now. I walked through it this morning, and I talked to one of the mentors I've had in the past, and those things are like middle school dances, where on the one hand, everyone wants to dance with each other, but they don't know how. So you have the job seekers on one side, the job providers on the other, and it's awkward for both of them involved. And what we wanted to do is create a platform where those companies can actually connect with somebody who may be getting out in Hawaii that would never come into contact with that person otherwise. You don't need a resume. You go online, you enter in your information, you fill out a survey. It comes back with some cognitive returns on that person, combined with what we know about that individual's time in service based off our own time and experience in the service, and we match them with that company. At the end of the day, it's up to the individual service member to be the right cultural fit for that company, and they got to pass that interview stage like anyone would expect, but it saves a whole lot of money for that company. They don't have to spend the $50,000, $60,000 in dispatching people to recruiting fairs to get a very small percentage of folks. They can get a whole wide range of folks access to them at any given time. And then on the other side, those transitioning service members have a huge resource to connect with any number of jobs throughout the country. I have about a 2-minute demonstration video that I'll play on it and then open it up for any questions.
Hi,
if we could turn up the sound, please.
Product at WorkScouts, and I'm going to show you how easy it is for veterans to get a job on our platform. WorkScouts is an email-based platform for people who want to find jobs. WorkScouts finds job opportunities and emails them directly to my inbox. No website to check, no password to remember, and no resume required. Say I'm an enlisted guy about to get out of the Navy and I need a job. I can start my search right away by going to workscouts.com and entering my email address. WorkScouts also helps educate me about the job search process. By signing up on the website, I instantly get this free ebook on how to successfully transition out of the military. To get started, I complete my profile by checking my email. Once I click through the onboarding screen to complete my profile, WorkScouts will start sending me jobs based on my location and salary preference. Here's a new job opportunity that just came in. Here I can see more details about the job, like the location, the salary, and a summary of the job written in plain English. When I click I'm interested, Work Scouts will take you through a short 10-minute survey with job-specific questions to help identify if I'm a good fit. Within 48 hours, Work Scouts will review my survey answers and email me with a decision. If they like my response, I can expect a follow-up phone call with the company. In the meantime, I'll continue to receive more job opportunities delivered straight to my inbox.
All right, so that's just a real quick demo of how it works. It is a new tool. We're just at the beta version. We started out with some of the next steps. We're on a Department of Labor grant right now. We're connecting folks with apprenticeship programs as we speak across 4 different states. I'm on my way out to Hawaii in 2 weeks for my kids' spring break, and I happen to go meet with one of my old bosses who's the deputy commander for USERPAC, or deputy G1 for USERPAC. He's interested in helping all the service members in the Pacific who can't necessarily get back for job fairs to get them on this site, and then also meeting on some of the higher density installations like Fort Bragg next week with the deputy commander, where you have almost 600 to 700 transitioners a month. So we're looking to get it out into both sides. If anyone's interested, I have some flyers, and you can obviously go to workscouts.com. But with that, Bill, I'll take any questions on either Hacking for Defense or Work Scouts.
Okay, so I had one question as you know, having transitioned myself and going through that 10-day mandatory transition course. Have you talked, I don't know if that's installation specific, or is there an organization that handles transition, and it would be a great insertion of your tool?
Yeah, so it's different for each service. It's very much the same. We've talked with the Soldier for Life folks, a guy named Adam Rock, who's the director. We were Brigade S3s together in Baghdad, and he is very interested in the program, but the way the transition assistance programs are implemented is through IMCOM, and so each installation manages theirs within the Army. The other services, it's very similar. We worked with Navy Region Great Lakes, several others to get the word out. It's important, and what we found is that that's only one side of it. We have to get it out through transition assistance programs and into the hands of service members so they can play with the site. But in a lot of cases, people are going to find out about it word of mouth, or we have an active Facebook social media campaign where we anticipate between 200,000 and 300,000 hits and views in the next 6 months, and that's how we also know we need to get it out. But thank you.
Hi, great presentation. Michael Hoffman from Tandem and SI. I was for the Hacking for Defense program. What has been the response you've gotten from the students so far?
So they're just getting started, actually. This is a brand new course. It'll start here in a few weeks at Stanford. The previous course that Steve Blank ran on this type of topic on a business class, the students, they really get beat up on this, and that's good. You want the rigor from the mission model canvas or the business model canvas, and it comes down to you need to build a value proposition, and you need to get out of the building, and that's one of the premises of it. You need to talk to your users and get the feedback on what really works rather than what you think may be the best case. Stanford has a lot of really smart people. In some cases, you don't want them solely to rely on the fact, I had an idea, therefore it must be right because I'm smart. Is get out of the building, go talk to a bunch of people, and see what people really need. And the dual use technology is what's really interesting about it. I'll tell a quick anecdote I think is really important. So for example, the technology that's out there right now, human performance monitoring. There's adhesive patches that can read the sensor markers, the biosensor markers from your sweat and your skin that can tell you enough information on how that person's doing over time. This technology exists, and it just needs to be further developed, progressed from a research and development stage. On the other hand, there's people that technology works great for airplane pilots, for example, or folks on extended duration missions. But one of the folks that's involved with this technology told me that is a game changer for people like premature babies, where you can't draw blood because you need that biomarker sensor, the patch on the back that can give them the same information and be less invasive. If we can have these problems that come into these smart people that get progressed and turn into, on the one hand, technologies for the government and the military, but at the same time be dual commercial use technologies and be game changers for the civilian community, that's really what I think is going to be one of the interesting things that we can't yet project what that'll be, but I think a lot of these problems that these students, and that's why they want to be engaged with it, is they see a future in helping their national security, but also the world in solving some pretty big issues. Thank you.
Can you give an example of some of the challenges that you've given some of the students?
So, you mean the individual students of what they need to do?
I know you guys have topics that you guys.
Yeah, so there was some in the slide there, but one example I talked about up front is the subterranean, how to maintain situational awareness in a subterranean environment. Very challenging. Navy Special Warfare Group problem, how to create wearable sensors for divers underwater that communicate. The Palo Alto Veterans Administration, how do you transport veterans who don't have transportation to the care they need? So these are micro problems. They're very real for those involved, and if you can get a bunch of smart people crashing on them for several weeks or through a term, then I know you can come up with some creative solutions. All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Thank you.